When your knees press against the hard plastic of the seat in front of you at 35,000 feet, you are not experiencing an engineering oversight. You are sitting inside a carefully constructed legal and regulatory vacuum. A commercial aircraft is an aluminum tube with massive fixed operating costs. To maximize profit, the interior space must be utilized with extreme mathematical precision. The economy seat you purchase is a highly contested piece of commercial real estate. Commercial aviation originally allocated substantial personal volume to each passenger. In the 1970s, cabins featured wide aisles and thick, heavy seating that allowed travelers to fully extend their legs. The disappearance of this room is the result of a deliberate, legally sanctioned business strategy. Airlines systematically commodified physical space, effectively turning basic human comfort into a highly engineered revenue stream. This schematic side view tracks seat pitch over time, the distance from one seat to the exact same point on the seat behind it. Before deregulation, economy pitch sat at a comfortable 35 inches. Today, the standard for full-service carriers has dropped to 30 or 31 inches. On ultra-low-cost carriers like Spirit and Frontier, that number bottoms out at an aggressive 28 inches. The compression happens laterally, too. Average seat width dropped from over 18 inches down to 16 inches on high-density aircraft. This forces passengers to physically overlap in what ergonomics call the shoulder conflict zone. While the seats shrink, human biology is expanding. Statistical data confirms that the modern global passenger is measurably taller, heavier, and broader across the shoulders than the flying public of previous decades. We have a literal geometric conflict, larger human bodies forced into a rapidly shrinking physical envelope. This is the baseline reality of modern flight. The question is how the industry legally engineered this squeeze. The catalyst for this extreme optimization was the 1978 Airline Deregulation Act. Once the government stopped setting airfares, airlines engaged in a brutal price war. To survive, they had to lower ticket prices, which required packing more passengers into the exact same fuselage. Engineers began by stripping out the heavy polyurethane foam cushions of the 1980s. They developed new, slimline composite architectures using aramid honeycomb cores sandwiched between fiberglass epoxy. This specific material science reduced the weight of a standard seat down to roughly 9 kilograms. This cutaway diagram reveals the kinematic mechanism that allows tighter rows. It is called the translating seatback linkage pivot, or cradle recline. Instead of tilting the backrest far into the row behind you, the mechanism slides your seat pan forward and slightly down, effectively extracting space from your own legroom. Designers also manipulate cognitive psychology using perceived space. By relocating the literature pocket from the knee equator up to the headrest, engineers clear visual obstructions. This buys an actual inch of physical clearance for the knees, while tricking the brain into feeling less confined. Every inch saved across a cabin adds up. On a narrow-body jet like a Boeing 737, compressing the pitch enough to add one extra row yields 6 additional seats. Over a year of daily flights, that single row translates to thousands of extra tickets sold per aircraft. Every millimeter shaved off an economy seat is a calculated mathematical conversion. Passenger space is transformed directly into millions of dollars in fixed cost reduction. To keep passengers safe in a crash, the Federal Aviation Administration requires seats to pass a 16G sled test. The seat must withstand stopping from 30 miles per hour in less than a foot without shattering. Modern composites absorb this impact flawlessly, satisfying the hardware regulations. This visualization represents a passenger pool taking the FAA's mandatory 90-second emergency evacuation test. The Civil Aerospace Medical Institute, or CAMI, ran these critical escape simulations using highly specific, heavily filtered demographic data. CAMI excluded elderly individuals, passengers with disabilities, and the 19% of adult men with waistlines over 41 inches. They evaluated the 90-second evacuation limit using an unrealistic, completely homogeneous subset of able-bodied subjects aged 18 to 64. When consumer advocacy groups sued to force the FAA to establish minimum seat dimensions, the courts looked at those CAMI tests. In March 2023, judges at the D.C. Circuit Court relied on that simulation data to dismiss the mandates. By essentially categorizing the physical dimensions of a seat as a matter of comfort rather than a matter of safety, government regulators legally absolved themselves from intervening in the physical compression of the passenger. Airlines unbundled their product. The physical space that used to come standard with a ticket was stripped away, then repackaged and sold back to passengers as premium economy or extra legroom upgrades. This graphic tracks the cost of flying before and after deregulation, adjusted by nearly 45% in real terms. Since 1978, the flying public actively voted for this high-density model every time they sorted flights by price and selected the cheapest option. The cramps and stiffness from these tight spaces are completely real. However, major medical research, including the 2003 BEST study, shows no statistically significant link between deep vein thrombosis and the specific dimensions of an economy seat. The modern airline cabin is functioning exactly as designed. Congress deregulated the market, the courts validated the safety metrics, and the airlines gave consumers the cheap flights they demanded. Discomfort at 35,000 feet is a feature, not a bug. It is the foundational architecture of the business model.